Altoni, such a great pleasure to be sitting with you today
Likewise.
at the Badrutt's Palace in your town, St. Moritz.
In my town.
Exactly.
Well, I always say I'm an outsider, but I'm a very regular visitor here.
Which I guess makes you an insider for a town like St. Moritz.
I'm an insider outsider. And
the
I've
best.
been very welcomed here to the town, which I'm always grateful for from everybody, I guess. And it's always been, been made feel very welcome. And that's helped a lot, given me the encouragement, I guess, and the energy to do what I do here. So I hope it's a two-way thing that I throw a few eyes on this town also.
I'm sure
my
it is.
pictures.
We call the insider outsiders in-betweeners.
Yeah.
They're the coolest people usually.
Absolutely. I was Joan Rivers, the great comedian. She said that she's always been an outsider and she was never invited to a party in her life. And her maid or one of her assistants asked to borrow a dress from her to go to the Vanity Fair Oscars party. She said she was never invited to. But I do like to maintain my perspective as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, I would say, a tourist, you know. I would say I'm like in a helicopter hovering and just plucking different elements I see in places, particularly here. And it's important for me to be a tourist.
Yep.
So that's probably the reference to the outsider.
That.
Yeah.
Maybe an outsider is curious, an insider is nostalgic.
Yeah, I like that as well. That would be accurate.
Around the world with your host, the Gstaad Guy. We welcome you back to the Gstaad Guy podcast, sharing stories of excellence with those in the know for those who just know.
I maintain my helicopter perspective and just pluck
and you make others curious through your work.
Yeah, and that's always something.
Yeah.
I mean, I shoot for myself, essentially. Firstly, I always say, like, if I'm entertained by the pictures, there's a decent chance the rest of the guys or people will be, because I'm very hard to, like, I have a very high level of visual stimulation or, you know, movies or whatever it is. So that's generally what I do is I shoot for myself. Once I have a smile on my face when I look at the picture, which it's always about a smile on the face, or I get a kind of a visceral reaction, that then I'm like, okay, this can go.
I feel that with your work. I feel the smile on the face energy.
That's what we want.
I feel this positivity, this glamour. I was saying before the cameras turned down, it's actually a feeling I get while watching an old James Bond movie.
Yeah.
It's this moment in time that you wish you could be a part of.
Yeah.
It feels mysterious and dangerous, but fun and colorful. It's this.
There's a fantasy I present, but it's a familiar fantasy.
Yeah. And
I think with all fantasies and with all, like James Bond, the reality behind the making of is very different to the final product.
Absolutely.
And I have friends that in the golf club in Ireland that say to me, one of my best friends, he said, you know, a lot of the guys think you don't actually work. You just tend to be traveling around and you stumble across a girl skiing over some kind of Carabinieri and a Lamborghini. And I like that in a way that they think I don't work, because we don't stop working. You know, the grind and the amount of effort and energy and financial investment into what I do. It's movie production. It's the level of movie production. And I like that people think it's just, he just happened to be skiing in St. Moritz and they saw this. So I like that. But it is the aim of my work always. It's not to create a political statement or movement. It is to essentially make people, to put a smile on people's face. And I always equate it to when you're in a bar or a restaurant and your favorite song comes on. Or we'll just say a song like Donna Summers or David Bowie and it's Last Dance or I Feel Love, whatever. There's a visceral response to that. You don't even realize it, but you're already tapping, or it can be the band or the pianist playing. So, and that's the goal with my work, is to create that visceral stimulation and put a smile, fun, you know. It's as simple as that 3-letter word, fun.
And the fact that you're making it look easy, I think is a good thing.
It's so difficult.
I know, of course. But all the things that seem effortless are usually the most difficult. I mean, the Italians have said that forever about their own cuisine.
Yeah.
And it's any creative listening today can relate. When it looks effortless, there was likely lots of effort behind it.
It's really like I've been sitting here for 2 weeks waiting to take a picture, and that's the moments when you get frustrated and you're like, but because the thing about the pictures, I already have the picture, it's already done. So I tend to kind of go backwards
Yeah.
from there. I kind of backstep from there where it's like, I know there's a picture that I'm waiting to shoot of two ladies sitting on the wing of a plane with a Ferrari F40 parked in front of the wing with the pilot disassembling their ski rack and another pilot carrying their bags as they're upstairs, they're on the wing being served lunch, sitting on the wing of a nice, whatever it is, a Global Express, whatever. But that's already done in my head.
It's very St. Moritz.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, but it's like if St. Moritz feeds me and I feed it, it's like
exactly.
It's this ecosystem. But that's already done in my head. So like, I'm like, okay, where's the picture? But I've got to wait. And then when it snows, there might be 4 days of cloud. And then the jet schedule, we have to jet possibly on this Thursday, but it's the weather's not looking what I need blue skies always. Yeah. So there's like, I need about 3 foot of fresh snow, blue skies, no wind. And there's all these elements and they do come together, but they come together maybe 5 or 6 days a year. Out per winter. So it all sounds very fancy in that, but the grind behind it is quite I love what I do, and it's what I was born to do, I guess.
I love it. I love the bright blue skies and those moments you capture.
Yeah.
I think that in a very different way, with a very different language, we try to communicate sometimes a similar story.
I would say. Yeah.
Because you said that before we turned the cameras on as well.
But same visual language.
Yeah, very similar
spoken
visual language.
Yes.
I think it's this, there's a sense of playfulness.
Yeah.
There's a sense of an 80s way of telling stories as well.
Absolutely. Nostalgia.
I'm very much inspired by James Bond's, but also of Peter Sellers, of Louis de Funès, and that era of film.
Yeah.
And the level of absurdity that went into those movies.
Freedom.
And the freedom. The
Absolute
freedom to storytell.
Freedom. Same as the advertising of that era as well.
Exactly.
Freedom.
And I see that in just this, I haven't even seen the image because you haven't taken it yet, but the two ladies sitting on the wing of the plane, that's just iconically 80s to me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'd love to dive into why you chose that as your story to tell.
As in that particular image?
No, this entire category for you.
I guess it goes back to, with respect here to my country men and women where I grew up. It started in Ireland. I grew up in Ireland, and Ireland's weather growing up there was quite mundane and grey. I want to be very clear, the people are very warm.
They are indeed.
Tropical even.
It's true.
But the weather and whatever gift, if we want to call it, or sensitivity, let's call it, perhaps then I have different theories which I can go into in that, about gifts and talent and all that, but definitely a sensitivity. I was always drawn to blue skies and warmth and sunshine, and the rain was difficult for me. So at an early age, I kind of would always gravitate towards, I want to go to Spain, or I want to, Years later, I moved to Spain, and I used to listen, back when I lived in Ireland, to Julio Iglesias as a kid, driving around in my car with Julio on. And he sang of palm trees and tanned brunettes and beaches. And this really inspired me. And my last book I did, Miami, by Tony Kelly, I dedicated it to Julio and thanked him for it.
And also his way of living life.
His living life. And it was something that really inspired me. And there was James Bond influence. So these kind of tropical, like these fantastical kind of backdrops were definitely something that called me at a young age, and I explored those places, and I ended up living in Spain for quite a while. So it was definitely developed from this kind of, we'll say, less than tropical climate, but the hunger to explore these places. And as an artist, you're testing different things. And I used to shoot. I had this great mentor in Spain who was a fashion photographer, because I really thought I wanted to be a fashion photographer. And that did not go well, because the stylists were always pissed off at me because I wouldn't give a shit about the clothes. I'd just shoot my story. There'd be a girl driving a car and you'd just see her head. And they were furious. But the editors were always happy because the pictures were there was a story. But this great mentor I had, Jose Manuel Ferrater, I started taking pictures because I had a press photography background, and then I moved into fashion. I was like, this is it for me. And I started taking pictures of a girl with this black background in black and white with water thrown over with a studio light. And he just looked, he was just like, this is like, what is this? He said, you have a very strong background, because I'd covered war in Afghanistan. I'd been in Africa. And he just said, you have a unique background. Continue telling those stories, but stick a model in there. And it was those light bulb moments where I was like, wow, I already have the basis of the skills. I just need to develop them more. And I just continued grinding away at that. And again, you test it at nighttime in Paris or a grey day in Barcelona. But then there was these sunny days with the blue skies, and it was just, again, that visceral, which is where I kind of had mentioned, like, I shoot for, of course, the same as you entertain for your viewers. And the same for me, I shoot to entertain my collectors or clients or just people who appreciate my, but the first person on the queue was me.
Yeah.
You know, and when I saw those blue skies, and I had this camera, it was a point and shoot from Canon, and there was this dynamic color setting you could put on it, and everything became really saturated and contrasty. And I remember taking a few snaps at that time with this on a fashion shoot. I was like, Jesus, I like how that looks with the blue sky and the pink and all that. And from there, literally, I just developed it more and more because it stimulated me and it entertained me. And it's like anything in art, you just kind of, you find your way.
Yeah.
There's no theory.
I'm going to try to pull the theory out of you, because I think that even though it's effortless to you now, I mean, it's not effortless at all, but even though it's second nature to you, I think that there's a lot that people who are inspired by your method can learn from.
There's instinctual theory. There may not be technical theory, but there's definitely instinctual theory. And that theory is summarized in photograph what you love. Photograph, you know, sing what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And if you do that, the camera is a magic wand, you know, and I won't say I'm paraphrasing, but definitely that was said to me by a guy in Hollywood who was his name is Gregory McKnight. I have to mention him because he's an absolute diamond. And I was having a conversation with him, and he just said to me, I was already doing it. That was the thing. I was photographing cars and skis and whatever. But that's what I say to people, you know, keep it simple.
Yeah.
And photograph, record, sing, paint what you love. Because then it's in your world, and then it's in your universe. And definitely that is, and it's definitely served me well.
Absolutely.
You know, the thing is, when you shoot all the stuff you love, you're like, what else do I love?
What else do I love? Absolutely.
You know?
I think we're definitely very different storytellers. But one thing we share is, I think, as well, is starting with the story you want to deliver. Yeah. And then backtracking to how we're going to put it together.
You're going backwards.
Which is quite rare.
But you're going forward. Yeah. I think that's a gift. I say gift again. I use that word carefully, but that's definitely an advantage when you can see it that clearly. And I see that print already of the ladies. I can smell it. I can taste it. I can see the texture of it. I can even see the nuances in it and the different kind of the textures, I guess. But I see the expressions, the clothes, everything. And I'm like, okay, where's the snow? Where's the sunshine? The jets can be there. So it is definitely you're stepping, you're progressing, but you're kind of going, okay, now we go back to step one. And I always say we go to the shoots after spending 3 weeks. My wife, Joanna, she does all the production. And we've done 3 weeks of production and we're at zero. Spent a lot of money. And then I start working, you know what I mean? So, but it definitely is that similarity of like, it's done, now we have to do it.
Work from there. But when I look at your work, I get that James Bond feeling we spoke about, but I also really get a taste of St. Moritz in a big way. And I think St. Moritz gives me that similar feeling to those 80s movies where there's this time machine feeling, there's this fairy tale and dreams come true for grown-ups feeling. With a beautiful exposure to the elements, that the snow in your pictures, but also luxuries and the craziness with the cars and the planes. I think this is a really special place.
No, absolutely.
I'm a big fan of St. Moritz. I know you are too.
Yeah, of course.
I'd love to know why St. Moritz for you.
I go back to what you said for a second about the timeless feel of those movies.
Yeah.
What's really interesting for me about those movies, if we touch on that, is there was a timeless feel when you watched them the first time, and there's still a timeless feel today. It wasn't with nostalgic or a kind of a retrospective view on it, and that's something magical when you can create that. It's like we were watching The Wolf of Wall Street last night, and I was like, what a masterpiece of a movie. And I was saying to Joanna, because obviously I'm very sensitive to acting, because I direct and I shoot a lot of shoot regularly. I direct videos as well. And it's like, I'm so sensitive to if an actor is given 80%, 82%, 86%, or 91%. And I watched that movie last night with Joanna, and I was like, it has that nostalgic feel. It has that, even though there's this kind of, I suppose, melancholic, it's like an oxymoron, isn't it, in a way? It's like this happiness and thing, but it's a very sad story being told, people would think.
True.
But when I watch DiCaprio, look at the thing, I'm watching the movie, and parallel, I'm observing their act. I'm out at the movie, and I'm in the movie, and I'm out of it, and I'm in it. And I just think those movies and the Bond movie, masterpieces, like absolute. That movie last night, I hard to concentrate on it, because then I'm studying the way, you know, he's directing or they're acting, and I'm like online looking at behind the scenes stuff of different scenes and stuff. But there is this nostalgic, fantasical, and very luxurious feel about this place. I came in here the first time, it was October. I drove up from Milan. I'd never been here before, years ago, and it was grey and windy, and it was raining, and I was like, God, what's the deal here? This is where's the glitz?
What time of year was that?
October.
There
it was
go.
No snow. It was
There
it was the mid-season,
in between.
Yeah, transitional season.
Yeah.
And then I came back in winter. How I first came back in the winter to shoot was, I had this idea, again, done in my head, of a lady on the Ferrari on the Thule roof rack, skis, ready to rock. And I called Ronnie Kessel, and I said, Ronnie, I need a Testarossa, but there's a catch. I need to put a ski rack on it. And he was like, of course, no problem. And I said, but then we need, I always do it in kind of stages when I have to get something.
You ask really slow.
But it's like the private jet. I'm like, we need the private jet. And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's never no problem. It's like, it's a lot of expense. I'm just kind of fast forward. And I'm like, but we need to have a girl on the wing. And they're like, okay. And I'm like,
having lunch.
I'm being served her lunch, and I'm like, and there's another girl. So the same. I was like, we need the girl on the ski rack, in the skis, as the car is going, like Julie are passing,
basically skiing the car.
And he was like, Tony, we can do whatever we want. And I was like, and I said, where do you think we should shoot it? He said, St. Moritz. You'll find some great spots up there. So it was Ronnie that brought me here in the first place.
How many years ago was this?
2020, I believe. 5-6 years ago, I think it was. And we shot it up at Julia Pass. I came up and kind of scouted. And then I had a very different feeling about this place, because I was like, number one, you have alpine roads open all year, cutting up through the high alpine. Julia Pass, the Bernina, Maloja, but more Julia and Bernina is where I choose, because it's really high. And that's unique. You don't have that in most ski resorts. You have a road that goes through the village, and then you have a lift. Here we're going above the lift in a car. And I found Julia Pass, and I fell in love with it. I was like, this is what, and it's totally Bond-esque. It's totally
very.
And Ronnie sent that car up here on point, everything. I was just like, wow. So it was essentially his, I suppose, encouragement to come here. But I always remember him saying to me, I was like, can we do the ski rack yet? And then he's like, Tony, we can do anything you want.
I love that.
So he's been a huge support of what I do, and a great friend. We're very close friends, but he's just been a great support over the years, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. We had a great episode with him on this podcast. Which was terrific.
He's a natural.
He is.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for his Concours d'Elegance.
I mean, it's the greatest event of the year, really, isn't it? I think it makes anything else, wipes everything else out. I say that.
Yeah.
And the thing about Ronnie is he's in the middle of it. He's such a humble person.
Yeah.
Very discreet and humble. There's no bravado. There's nothing. He just gets it done.
Yeah.
And he's a focused pro.
Yeah.
You know? And I think people around him, everyone's inspired by him. So
I agree.
Bravo to him.
Bravo to Ronnie.
Bravo to Ronnie.
In the center of St. Moritz, we have the Badrutt's Palace.
Yeah.
Where we're seated today.
My local.
We recorded a great episode of this podcast with the managing director of the palace, Richard Lunenberger. And we've said this. He's the mayor of the town.
And this is the town hall.
Badrutt's is the town hall.
We're sitting in it.
We're sitting right in the center of it.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time here.
I do.
Can you paint a picture of what that looks like in practice?
Okay. I would say, so like, there's so many layers to this. The first thing would be, I come here a few days a week. It would be my local. I say local as in we dine here, and it's a fancy local. The most important thing here for me are the staff, from the porters to the maitre d's, to the ladies who work in there and the gents who work in there, to the front, from the front to the kitchen, to the chef. I've got to know quite a few of them naturally over the years, and they've obviously seen some pictures that I shot with the palace early on. They're the reason I come here. And I think that Richard and his team do a phenomenal job, firstly, of who they have working here. And there's just they're proud to be a part of this place. But it takes me 10 minutes to get to the restaurant out of me wanting to talk to the staff. And it's funny, I travel a lot and I just gravitate towards the guys here. Mm-hmm. The people who turn the wheels and keep such a magnificent establishment, not moving, not operating, growing and getting better. And it's just so wonderful, this place. And I would say it all goes back to the palace, you know. It's like, it's an institution and it's a special place. But it's, again, you know, in Miami, we live next door to Faina Hotel. And I have this, it's these two places. I have this relationship with the staff there. It's just something familiar, you know, something home. It's something, because when you're traveling a lot, it's like, it's lovely to see familiar faces. Another thing is when they're wonderful people. So I purposely take 10 minutes to get to my seat because I know them and they're friends. And I remember last year when the palace closed after the season, I walked down the street and there was a gang of people outside a cafe up the street. And one of them went, Tony, and then Mr. Kelly. And I said, who's this lot? And then I walked over. I said, wait, I reckon. And it was the entire staff of the palace out having their end of season coffee or jar, whatever they would drink, whatever they. And it took me a sec to kind of refresh because I'm so used to seeing everyone in this formal attire and the palace, you know, the guys out front. And I sat there with them and everything, and I was just like, they've become friends, and they're people who I really value, you know, because they do put the smile on the people's face. Mm-hmm. You know, I have the same in Miami in Faina Hotel where we spend a lot of time as well. And there are two places. So I'm very grateful to have these because you feel home.
Absolutely.
And it's the people who work here. Yeah. You know.
And I think it's a great representation of something I actually see that's unique to Swiss mountains, but also to St. Moritz in particular.
Yeah.
There's these generations of families that have been coming here, and this beautiful community, that people can quickly become a part of if they understand and contribute.
You have to contribute
and share the values of people here.
It's very clear up here, in these hills.
Yeah,
if you're positive and you're respectful and you come in here and you contribute, and you have you know, good intentions. In my case, I've definitely been welcomed here. And I said that at the start. I am an outsider. I never regard myself as a local, out of respect for the locals, you know. But it's definitely, if you contribute and you're respectful and you do what I think you'll be welcomed, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think we need always people who will come with positive energy and positive attitude and want to contribute. I think that's it. But to go back to the palace, like it is the town hall, you know. And Richard was very generous with Aunt Sophie as well. I stayed in a hotel up in the town in our early days here. It was up above at the back of the Hermes store. And I looked down one morning, I opened the curtains, and I just saw the roof of the tower with this kind of 60-degree, slightly curved pitch on the roof. And I just saw the Bond scene of the guy skiing down there. And I immediately called to Aunt Sophie, who's always been, she's major support and has set up a lot of the pictures or helped me kind of produce and get these pictures we shot up here. And I said, I have this idea of two guys skiing down the roof, the tower roof. And she was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And she is like huge help and support here. And she came back and said, okay, Richard said, we can do it.
Wow.
So we harnessed two guys onto the roof. And I mean, it was like this. And it was probably the most difficult picture I've ever taken in my life.
Wow.
And we stayed here at the palace when we were shooting. And I always remember Joanna comforting me one evening as I was in tears, sitting in the corner of the room with this beautiful view over the lake. But it was the first time I was in tears in my work from work, because I had the weight of the palace behind me. We had like basically these very talented skiers on the roof, and it took a few days to set up. And I started to doubt if I was going to get the picture, which never happens.
Yeah.
Never. I always know I have like 2 or 3 plans and I can get it somehow. But this was one that I was like, I'm in trouble here. This is the thing. The next evening we got the picture. It's one of my proudest pictures. It's called First Descent, and it's 2 gentlemen skiing down in palace uniforms. These That's beautiful amazing. Napoleonic uniforms.
Yeah.
But the palace has been it is the headquarters here, isn't it?
I love that. And we spoke that some of your customers are some of these St. Moritz icons that live in a very particular way.
Very discreet people.
There's
no bravado again.
A deep appreciation for the outdoors and the mountain.
Yeah.
These deep family ties and family values.
Of course. And that's Sam Moritz. Sam Moritz, of course you will have this circus that comes through here.
Yeah.
Various moments and people coming here to party and stuff. But the true core and the spirit of Sam Moritz that I know, and that I've been, I guess, welcomed into, I'm very grateful for that. Very discreet people, very elegant people, class, like real class, There's no discussion of wealth or asset. Like, it's a different world. And I think right now in society, when we see how, with social media, which I love, by the way, I don't know this guy hacking on about social, wonderful. It's given a voice, it's given a platform to so many artists. But I think it's refreshing to come up here and see that discreet attitude where people are not talking about that. And they have it. They've done it.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's very refreshing and very relaxing to be around. And that's the spirit of town. I mean, I go back to my early days here. I took that picture, and the following day I went driving around. I was like, wait a minute, there's an airport here also. And there's a lake, and there's a helicopter. And the town were very supportive of my pictures in those days, and still today, where I can fly a helicopter or take a helicopter up, land it on the mountain, obviously only for official photo productions. And it's like, it just goes back. It's like a James Bond set for me. And I'm really grateful for that. That I don't take for granted. And actually, speaking of James Bond, one of my big influences was Willy Bogner of Bogner Skiwear, who was also a pioneer of these techniques where he sellotaped or connected 80 cameras to this helmet, this big metal helmet he had constructed. And he skied down the mountain, so he had like this kind of, which is obviously now like a GoPro and a stick. Yeah. But he shot the James Bond scene of Roger Moore, that chase where Roger Moore is out skiing the bad guys. And he was and he shot that here.
Wow.
He shot a lot of stuff here. So I felt when I start shooting here, I was kind of, I won't say stepping into his shoes, but definitely trying to taking it up where somebody else had left it off. And I think my initial picture of the Ferrari, people appreciated that because it was like, they were familiar with, kind of a luxurious action visual language or set of images. And I was very, very proud to have shot that stuff and continue to shoot those action-y Bond-inspired pictures. But Sam Moritz is a great, it's my winter studio. And
I love that.
It's a great place to be.
I feel like there's a growing appetite from people who, like me in many ways, love that story and that James Bond energy we've spoken about so much, who may have never even experienced it. Like for me, it can't be nostalgia. I wasn't born yet. So for me, it's actually a deep curiosity about this time that I never lived through, but that I think has so much beauty.
Yeah.
And this incredible timelessness.
I think it really did.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like it really was beautiful. When I moved to West Hollywood in Los Angeles, I chased this nostalgic, just what you'd said about you weren't born yet. I wasn't around in the golden days of Hollywood. And when I moved there, I lived there for 13 years and I shot and directed quite a bit of stuff there. I immediately went to Beverly Hills Hotel, Sunset Tower, Chateau Marmont, chasing that era. And I never found it, which in a way was kind of great because it was left to my imagination, or the texture, the walls, or the Beverly Hills Hotel still has, so does Chateau and Tower. But I always remember being in Jackie Collins, the great author, a great writer, Jackie Collins, who I love her books, Hollywood Wives and all this, just unapologetically coarse description of the shenanigans in Hollywood. She's brilliant. And I was in her house and she has this sketch on the wall, the Polo Club, 1970s. And it was like Sinatra, like all the greats. It was like a sketch, a cartoon kind of. And I was like, that's what I've been looking for all these years I've been living in Hollywood. I never found it because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I think there's a beauty to having not having experienced something that's very nostalgically attractive, something that kind of stimulates you or inspires you, I should say. But that I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And we get to create that.
Yeah, exactly.
You also, what you have created is in that same visual language, we say that again, or genre. It's like it's a fantasy, and it's something very safe, and it's super. I love what you've done.
I appreciate it. I think this sort of lighthearted humor, and
we have to keep it fun.
I think so too. And I think it's the media capital of the world is the US, and I think the US's storytelling of things, either fictional or news-based, are especially recently rooted in extreme points of view.
Yeah.
And I think the 80s was far more nuanced.
Yeah.
Where the humor didn't have to be a laugh out loud joke, it could be a chuckle.
Yeah.
And the news didn't have to be intense and polarizing. It could actually be just informative.
And I think the day that magazines start putting celebrities on the covers changed everything, because politicized, publicists involved. I mean, I lived and I shot in Hollywood for 13 years. And I got to a point where I was like, I won't do celebrities. I do not even want to see a celebrity. I love to appreciate their talent, but I never wanted to photograph them because you have a publicist standing over you and it's like, you can't do this, you can't do that. And that's just, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that freedom went, I think, with the increase in the amount of celebrity covers, celebrity endorsements, where prior to that, if you think about ads, nobody knew who was in the pictures. You could do who you wanted. And I would love to see a return in less conservative advertising, and less, because the ad agencies, the people who write up the ads, it's so layered, and it's so, I listen to it occasionally. Most of the time people commission me to shoot their commercial campaigns, and it's just like, what would you like to do? And I say, well, I think this is best. And it's like, okay, go and do it. Occasionally I have to speak to agencies, and I'm listening, I'm just going, with all due respect.
Yeah.
The job is for the agencies to keep the client. It's not to actually create an award-winning campaign in most cases. With all respect, I'm not criticizing them. But I kind of shoot my pictures as if sometimes they are ads in the 80s. The girl sitting on the plane, can you imagine the name of the jet company across it? That's what sells. Oh, people are afraid now, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
The Palace, the guy skiing off the roof, so I operate kind of in between. Yeah, and I have great freedom there, and I pay everything myself.
Yeah,
I pay for all my own productions.
So I don't full control.
Full control.
This podcast is brought to you by Poubelle by the Gstaad Guy, bringing you charms hand-painted with enamel on 925 sterling silver, allowing you to express all the things you love and all the things you might question, from Riva bateaus to backgammon boards and caviar tins to paddle rackets. There is a Poubelle charm or completed set for everyone in the know. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, I think that can only work, that sort of freedom to tell your own story can only work when you can also control the story and do the thing yourself,
It's a lot of the time it's putting the money down as
Yeah.
well. You have to have the vision in the first place, but you got to put the money down. I'm
Well,
not afraid to do it. I've never been afraid to spend,
Yeah.
and it's a great investment.
Yeah. One of my favorite comedians and storytellers who I think storytells nuance and comedy, and it has a lot of that nostalgic feeling, even though it's new, is Larry David.
Yeah.
And I think Larry David's exceptional at this,
Yeah.
especially being in the US and being in California.
Yeah.
His art form really stands out among this
Exceptional.
extreme humor. He has this nuanced in between.
Yeah. It's Kashmir humor, I guess.
Kashmir
It's
humor.
very strong, but it's kind of coded in Kashmir.
Exactly. Soft. It's chuckle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
I like Bill Burr also, who's a
I don't know
machine.
Laura.
Huh?
I don't know him.
Yes. Like, for me, the greatest of them all. But he's a machine gun. There's no Kashmir to it. But he's a visual genius. It's all very visually driven, but he's a real genius.
How did your relationship with the camera begin?
Great question. There's pictures of me as a 5 or a 6-year-old holding this camera. I had this great aunt that came from, she was living in America, and she's come home with all like nice clothes and for us, and she would give us all these gifts and cameras and stuff. And I just gravitated towards it, I guess. The actual camera, I didn't care about taking pictures, but I felt the camera was very empowering.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an accessory. And that stayed with me years later. I always thought it was cool if you had a camera, but I wouldn't take pictures. Today, the complete opposite. I've no real love. I'm not a technical guy, and I don't really, the cameras are tools. I'm not a guy. I rarely will take a camera out unless I'm working. But that was this kind of relationship at the start. And my mother would always tell, you get cameras, you always cameras. And then years later, there was, it's really interesting. There was just one day I said, I'm going to be a photographer. There was no, philosophical, or there was no like kind of a plan. I was just like, I'm going to be a photographer. And there was a great photographer who was a friend of my parents from the golf club in Ireland, who was a brilliant news photographer and sports photographer. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit and helped me quite a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it was just this, I followed my footsteps, essentially. I just like, that's what I'm going to do. And that's it.
That.
And that's what I did and still doing today. And you just kind of, gravity, I guess, and people say, how did you get into photography? I say, it kind of got into me more so, that way. It's not like but I always worked my ass off, and I never was afraid to just give it everything, still to, like, I always will, but it was just, I guess it was just like meeting somebody, and meeting a girl, or meeting a partner. It was a natural romance, I suppose, and it turned into a marriage.
Yeah.
Do
you think that relationship and that marriage can exist as easily today with iPhones and iPhone photography?
I love the question. I also love that you when you ask, you're sensitive to all of this. You get it.
Thanks.
It's not vacant. You know what I mean? You get it because you can apply. It's applicable to your own career. I think I'm so happy for young artists today. When I went into fashion, which was like, I hated it, but it was just, they were like things I could play with. It was like a Christmas tree for me. You had to be in with the editor. You had to be, you had then the Mario Testinos, the Lindberghs, the Di Marcelliers, who were the top guys. And unless you were in that, you were just outside. And I was always a guy who they would hire for very specialist gigs. They would want to shoot a party, or they would want to with this, and I'd shoot the story. It would be in one of the main magazine, Vogue or whatever it was, and I'd be like, oh, I've made it now. And then you wouldn't hear from them for about 2 years. And they were like, we wanted. So you were absolutely reliant on being a part of that team. It would be like in athletic terms, you had to be on the Olympic team. And that was like difficult. I was younger than those guys, and they really had it on a Testino. I mean, what a brilliant photographer. Brilliant. All those guys, Di Marcelli, everybody. Limburg, Sorrenti, still brilliant. But they had that scene sewn up. So unless you were in that and you were a favorite of one of the great editors, you were outside. Today, that's complete opposite. And I'm grateful I say grateful again, I'm delighted for young artists who are starting their career. They never need to be published in any magazine. The magazine is obviously in a different place than it was then. So they create their own platform, they create their own genre of photography, they create their own world, And I think that that's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be an artist, a great time to create. Is there a lot of absolute horse out there? Yes.
Yeah.
Crap. Is there more horse out there? Probably not. We're just seeing more of it because we're more exposed visually daily to horse. Is there some absolute dynamite out there of great talent? Yeah,
I agree.
And it's beautiful to look. We see now these people who don't really do anything, and they just post pictures of themselves knocking around events and holding handbags and stuff. I mean, that's fine, right? Whatever, that's bubblegum, But what I love is to see, I'm flicking through Instagram and I'll see people, I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. Cool. That person wouldn't have had a sniff at being on the cover of Vogue magazine or think, possibly not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But that person today has an audience of 500,000 people. And it's like, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that to me inspires me. And there's stuff I see, as an artist, my trajectory was Helmut Newton was a great inspiration. I used to go to jobs with Helmut Newton books and I'd be flicking through the pages looking for elements. And one day I no longer did that. And I was like, where do I go now? And then I realized I didn't need that anymore. I was making my own ideas. And then there's this moment where you pass in your career where you're like, there are no references.
Yeah.
You're the one creating the references for other people. And I get letters from people saying, I did my thesis on this, or I did, on your work and stuff. And it's like, it's a great moment, So I kind of went a little bit off there, but there's just this great visual pool of talent out there. And they have a voice, they have a platform, they have an audience. And that to me, because I came from a place where you had to really, you were lucky if you got 10 pages in GQ or Vogue or whatever. It was like a huge thing. And today you don't need that. And I say bravo and get out there and do what you got to do. As I said, shoot what you love, pump it out there. And I tell people when they come looking for advice and stuff, just you have a platform that nobody had 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Saturate it, do the work and bang it out there.
Yeah.
It's a great time,
Fully aligned. And I love your optimism and I share your optimism.
Absolutely.
I think the market is efficient as well. I think good content, good work will travel far and will be celebrated, and bad work will just fall through the cracks.
Absolutely. But I still say the commodity or the diamond that is a good idea, an original idea, that is still as powerful, as valuable as ever. And the thing about hard work, it was Rory McIlroy, the great Irish golfer, who is like phenomenal beast of an athlete and a mental side of his performance, like amazing. I look a lot at Rory. He said hard work beats talent every day that talent is not working hard. And that just gives me shivers,
I love
because like I said it to my team here in San Moritz there. I was just like, I don't care what we create this winter. I do care, but I'm saying I know what our goals are. I don't care if we achieve that. What I do care is we do our best, and we leave here saying we gave it 100% because weather you can't control. So, and that really is something I live by.
It's a beautiful thing.
Hard work does beat talent.
Yeah.
If talent's not working hard.
Absolutely. I like that line.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
He knows a lot about it,
I mean, you guys share that vision, but also I think Ireland Very cool place.
Super.
The people I've met from there, I have dear friends who are Irish. They share this love for life.
Yeah.
This love for different cultures, different people.
Yeah.
And this celebration of everything in between.
Yeah.
There's this incredible Irish spirit.
Yeah.
That I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I said this before, and it's something that gives me great strength in being able to navigate the places I work and the scene I suppose my work is based in, let's say. In Ireland, the most popular guy is not the wealthiest guy. It's the funniest guy, or the person who's the most animating to tell a story. Yeah. And I'm not painting a picture of a lot of Irish people with fiddles sitting around a fire. Not at all. It's a modern, progressive, very, very, very productive, economically, industrially. It's a very progressive country. But the emphasis is not on the car you have or the wealth or what you have. Irish people don't talk about what they do for a living. They don't talk about their car. They don't talk about their new watch. Or they care about that stuff, of course. This is materialism on every side, but
it's not status, it's substance.
It's substance. Very well said. Yeah. And that's something I take with me. And when I go back home, you immediately plug back into that. I never lose it, but you plug back into it, or it plugs into you, so to speak. And
it's very well said. Ireland is not about status; it's about substance. And I felt that.
And you sit around the table, or I just don't want to say a bar because there's this cliche, but it's probably true.
It's a bar.
Or you sit. Let's say you're sitting around a bar, and the popular, the most powerful or the most attractive person is the person with the banter. And I'm very proud to be Irish. I'm very proud of the country it's grown into. Always was, but it's just something that's like, it's very, very, very progressive. Forward thinking, progressive in the context of like forward thinking, and it's I think it's the largest English speaking country in the EU.
Oh yeah,
after Brexit, I guess.
Oh yeah,
and they made the most of that. But they're clever people, but the emphasis is always on decency.
Absolutely.
And but they're razor sharp.
I love the decency. The inclusivity.
Joanna, my wife, she's German, and she goes over there, and her mind is just like she would live there tomorrow in a second. She loves Ireland, and they love her. There's this great contrast of the German humor, I guess, and the perspective mixed with the Irish, and she has a great time over there. But I'm very, very proud, and I always say that when I was an American band, like I'm Irish also, And I remember coming back through the Irish immigration back to Dublin the first time with my American passport. I was very proud. I'll go through the American, and the guy said, "Welcome home, Tony." And I was like, "How do you know that I'm Irish?" And he goes, "Because it's written on your American passport."
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's Ireland. There's just that extra.
Yeah.
There's that extra spark.
Yeah,
and it's something that I'm
absolutely
very, very proud of. I've said that 4 times, so I think.
So although today you're really playing the storytelling of fiction in many ways, you're putting together these fictional environments that, of course, represent many real world things, but you're in full control. But you started your career in your 20s by actually just capturing real life as a news photographer.
Yes.
Which I think on a spectrum is the exact opposite. It's actually waiting for the shot, sometimes a very unfortunate moment.
Yeah.
And using your camera and your skill to show the world something they otherwise wouldn't have access to.
Yeah.
Very different to what you do today. I'd love to understand.
It's different.
What that was.
This is the kind of the battle can sometimes be the same because you're dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually went to photography college when I was 17, and I left after 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I found it all too hippie-ish and too artsy for me at that time. Nice people, friends still, some of them today, but my college education lasted 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I say that in terms of there's people out there, artists, young photographers, directors, and aspiring directors who think that they have to go through a 6-year or 4-year degree in NYU or whatever, which is a brilliant course, but you don't, and I didn't. I learned the practical way. So I guess there's two different ways you can learn. You can learn practically, academically, and or theoretically. I definitely learned as I went, much more hands-on approach. I left college and I went working for a local newspaper. Called them. I was like, driven. Always have been driven, but like driven like a train. And I called them and I said, I'd like to work for you. And they said, well, we just fired our photographer today. Just one of those. Anyway, I went from there to national newspaper, and I was the youngest ever to work at the national newspaper in Ireland, which was, for me, was like I'd landed in Hollywood. It was like amazing. And they'd send you out on news jobs, and it would be bank robberies to murders to then sports. So you had this great rounded training where you could kind of use the camera to capture various different scenarios. And that's one of the great training that you receive as a news photographer. You're doing lots of different stuff. You're photographing the President of Ireland, then you're photographing someone who was unfortunately murdered. And you're always kind of you live in it, you're eating your lunch in the car as you're driving a high speed. But it was a brilliant master's or degree, at least in photography, I guess. And they were my formative years. When I was 20, I was 20 years old, and there was this horrendous situation in Rwanda, the Congo. And I asked the newspaper if they'd send me there because I wanted to cover this. I was really, I have a great friend still today, Kenneth O'Halloran, who had been there. He was always a step ahead in those days. And I used to follow in his footsteps. He's still a great advisor today, or, shoulder, I guess. But he had been, I said, I want to go. And the newspaper said, well, we can't send you, for insurance reasons. So I said, no problem. I'm going to take some holidays. So I went to the local World Travel, it was called. And I think it was like this kind of exotic travel agency or like far-flung destination. And I booked a ticket to Rwanda.
Wow.
Hooked up with an aid agency, 20 years old. My parents must have been terrified. Yeah. And I photographed the very unfortunate, horrendous scenes down there. And from there, I got a taste for this kind of news reportage. So I did various, and then I was sent to cover the war in Afghanistan years later, twice. I was there from the very start. So I'd done a lot of, and then I'd be dispatched to the World Cup to photograph the war. So I had this varied and very rounded experiences, photographing lots of different events and some tragedies and sports events, and that's the kind of run of the mill for a press photographer. And I was a press photographer, 100% hand on heart. I was in. When I look back, when you're on a job or you're on assignment and your camera breaks, you don't have anybody there. Now I have dudes standing there who I can hand it to, and I have a team, and it's amazing. But I still learned how to kind of make things happen. And I would go back to that night on the palace, on the tower, or the roof of the tower. I was in a bit of a situation, but I channeled, I guess, or I channeled into those resourceful days where you're on your own. Your camera breaks, you fix it. You find someone steal one if you have to, but just make it. Because we always live by this motto: it's nothing else matters, only the picture. And obviously humans matter a lot more than the picture, but in terms of a work context, and there's just great strength and, I suppose, resourcefulness that I learned from those days. Because you're on your own. You're with a journalist. They don't give a shit about what you know what I mean? It's like you're on your own. And the parallel with today is kind of the environment. I one of the main kind of inspirations or moments that kind of pushed me more into what create my, I don't want to be big-headed and saying, but I do believe I've created my own genre of photography. And that was the goal. And if I haven't, I will. I'm on the road to it. But I think my pictures are instantly recognizable, and that was always a goal. But one of that came from the news days where I would be photographing a scenario, and my instinct would be like, I wish the girl had a red dress on. Or I wish the policeman standing beside her was more handsome. Or I wish he had black hair. So I would kind of have not a frustration, but like a kind of a vision of, how this could be better. And that's where those seeds started to kind of, where they were planted and then started to grow. And that's where I thought from the transition from news to fashion. I remember the first time I ever photographed a model in my life. It was for the newspaper. They used to have these fashion pages in the Irish newspaper. And the editor told me, the photo editor told me, you're going to photograph the fashion today. First time ever. It's 21, I think. And I got in the car with the model, the stylist, and whoever else. And I drove to this beach in Dublin on the Bay. It was probably like 45 minutes away. 4 hours later, he called me. He was like, where are you? I said, I'm on the beach doing the fashion. And he said, you were supposed to do it at the back door of the office of the newspaper. I was like, no, but it's fashion. And they were pissed off. And I was like, so I always had this thing. It was like, this is what I'm going to do, and no one's going to sound. But the creative freedom I have when I photographed that girl, that model, I still remember the pictures. I was like, I can control everything here. She's beautiful. We can change things. And that's where that seed planted, you know.
I love that.
Where the idea of me photographing a moment and capture, it definitely wasn't it was my passion, but it wasn't it wasn't what I was going to spend the rest of my life doing, you know. And I always remember in Afghanistan, I was spending time with this photographer from New York Times, who was still today an absolute beast. Like, he is the guy. And in that moment, I was able to see the difference between where my career, you know, was going and what I wanted to do. And I was like, I said to myself, you want to do this, that's what you got to do. Yeah. It wasn't for me. You know, it wasn't at that time. But the challenges are similar, to be really honest. Like, they are similar. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with access to places, to airports, to hotels, to venues, and getting the permission of people. And that's kind of similar when you're a news photographer in parts, you know, particularly in the conflict places.
Absolutely.
It's access, and it's to meet, you know, the right people and stuff. So it's worlds away, but there's similar elements and challenges, and you know.
I think a lot of the listeners today who are creatives or have a creative side they want to channel, or even our photographers in particular, voice a concern about this generation and the time they're born into, where there are challenges of this time that are unique to this time. I personally think that this is the greatest time to be alive, and there's even more opportunity across these categories. But then again, I'm not a photographer, so I'd love to understand from you.
Well, you're a visual and you're creative, absolutely. I mean, you get it.
I appreciate that.
You do. My friend Alessandro Ristori, from the Alessandro Ristori in the Portofinos, we had dinner with Joanna and himself and the band in the Armani Hotel in Milano a while ago, and he said to me, Tony, everybody talks about the Dolce Vita. He said, now is the Dolce Vita, you know, which contradicts a little bit what we spoke about over this nostalgia, but we were talking about cinema. You know, it's very different. I think absolutely agree with you. Now is the time to be alive. Now is the Dolce Vita. Alessandro is he's quite a deep thinker, and he lives he lives it, you know. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I love him, and the band, and Ben, the manager. But he really is a deep thinker, and the stuff he says to me when he speaks, I listen. And he said that to me. I was like, the Dolce Vita is now. Now is the Dolce Vita. He said, we talk about the Dolce Vita in the 60s. He said, my father said it. He told me his father said, in the 60s, things weren't great. You know, there wasn't the access to wealth or to resources that we have today. And I think artistically, economically, in every way possible, this is a great time to be alive. And I think
the tools we have access to.
Come on. My cameras, when I start working in newspapers and stuff, were like, there was a massive difference between the camera of a professional photographer and the tourist. I can literally go up to Ruitz's Photo here in the town and buy myself a setup today and go to work in 2 hours, in 20 minutes. And like the guy who's tourist can buy the same, you know. I bought some fancy, I've always kept cameras for me, have always been like, it's never been my thing. But I bought some fancy cameras recently, which kind of put me back a little bit, the separation. But I would say if the luggage doesn't arrive or cameras go missing, I can go to a shop, just buy a camera for whatever, $1,000. Shoot the story. And Helmut Newton used to always say that. He said, I use a tourist camera. But back then there was a big difference, you know. But the access to equipment, access to, you know, you can edit videos on your iPhone, actually edits them for you. There's just so much freedom, creative freedom, and there's so much accessibility to equipment, to platforms, to everything. It is a brilliant time to be a creative.
I agree.
The key is to have original ideas and go back to what I said. Shoot, create, paint, sing, whatever. Stuff that you love. But there's never a better time. Anyone who's complaining about they don't have this, I disagree.
I agree. I think it's there's more opportunity than ever to continue to elevate and push. So the main ingredient, I think, is just a desire. The desire to actually want to push the boundaries of whatever it is you want to do. And
yeah. There. Even if it's garbage that someone's creating, they're still going to get 100 people saying they love it. You know what I mean? So is that a false sense of security? Maybe, but it's great because I think all artists, all humans, we need validation. We enjoy validation. It encourages us, and it's healthy. It's a dog that comes up and wants to be petted. He wants to be validated, and I feel that the validation that people can, the encouragement. Let's say encouragement more so. You know, I see stuff online. I'm like, it's not my style, but look, there's 4,000 people liking it and 300 people commenting. Like, great, live the dream. You know. And I feel that, I totally agree with what you said. It is a great time to be alive, particularly for creatives.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing stuff coming out of, kids shooting stuff on video. I'm like, it's amazing, you know?
On the topic of validation, I think imitation can feel like validation to some who are optimistic, can feel offensive to people who are proud of their work.
I like where you're going,
I have had many copycats over the years.
I've seen quite a few.
Some who are direct copycats, some who are simply inspired and tell their own thing.
Yeah.
I try to take the approach of validation no matter what. How do you feel about people who copy your work?
My wife feels a little different than I do. She's a bit more protective over it than I am. She's laughing there.
She's here with us, by the way, and she's loving this.
She feels she's quite militant, I would say. She will say to me, look at this idiot. And I'll be like, babe, it's okay. It's cool. That's what we do, you know, and people want to take inspiration. Where the line is very clear for me, when people steal for commercial usage, when they take my picture and they put a logo on it, that's a different thing. That's not copying. That's just theft. So we take that very seriously, and I protect my images because they're my images, and I spend a lot of time, money, and my heart creating them, and effort and love. Additionally, when people collect them or collectors, they have them on their walls. And they're not exactly economical, let's say, because the product has a lot invested into it. When they then see some half-wit who stuck a logo across that same picture, it puts me in a compromising position. So we have to take action on those things. Absolutely. But when I see a kid in Russia who's, trying to copy something I did with some high heels and some skis, let's say, or not even a kid, a photographer out there, I take a kind of a lighthearted approach to it, if it's for artistic reasons and as somebody trying to build something. As I said, Joanna, my wife, she sees it slightly different. But I think what I said earlier on about that transition, that you are no longer looking in magazines or in books, because I used to buy Vogue Paris. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. Vogue Paris, Vogue Italy. There was a great Vogue Italia, Uomo Sport was a supplement. Bruce Weber, and some of those guys, Testino, I think she should be, but it was Bruce Weber, Stephen Meisel used to shoot a lot for it. It was just sports fashion. It was just beautiful. So I'd look at those things, and then that transition happens where you're not looking at those anymore. You're the creator. And if you're creating the stuff and you're the one, you're then in that position, you have to be grateful that people will take inspiration from it. Yeah. Direct copy, as I said, I've seen a few of them, and sometimes we'll send a note just to say, it's best I always say it's best because it's positive and it's discreet and it's polite. But what can you do? You know what I mean? What can you do? The fake Rolex sold more Rolexes, You know, the fake Ralph Lauren shirts sold more Ralph Lauren shirts. So
there's the cost of being a first mover.
Yeah, it is.
Create your own little niche.
It is. And which brings me on to AI.
Yeah.
That in the gallery here in St. Moritz, I had people coming in saying, is it real? And I love when they ask that, because thanks again to my wife, Joanna, she's really insistent that we always have behind the scenes video. And sometimes the video gets a lot more traction on social media than the actual picture.
Yeah.
You know, because we work with stuntmen, so we have everything to show.
Yeah.
And I think the AI is the fake Rolex for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people, oh God, she did jump over the car. And I'm like, yeah, 11 times. There's the video. So
the process is really the art form.
Yeah, and having the balls to actually go and execute, because I'm really tense when I'm shooting, because we had this girl, Leah. She's an French Olympic skier. She jumped over that Lamborghini, the Carabinieri, and she jumped it 11 times. It was substantial. It was a size, like quite a big jump. And we had a local pro freestyler dig the jump with another guy, Patrick Kohler. And he hit it the first time, and I was going, Jesus, this is a lot of air. Because you have to clear the jump on the road and the whole thing. I was clear the car on the road. And she did it 11 times.
Wow.
You know, my stomach is tense, even though she's comfortable. You're still going. She's, you know, no helmet on. She can hit a bump. Something can go wrong. I'm the one. It's me on the line. Yeah. But you just learn to work with the best possible people so you can navigate those situations. But to go back to what I was saying, when people come in, I'm really proud to show that video. We have it up on a massive screen in the gallery. And they're like, is this real? And you're like, you know, and I think the fake really helps to, I don't say validate, but give even more value to what is
absolutely
original and real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the original idea and then the real execution.
Yeah.
That I'm proud of.
I love that.
You know,
on this podcast, we always play a game of à la poubelle versus Fantastique.
I love it.
Can you share a couple of things that you would throw à la poubelle and a couple of things that you would celebrate to be Fantastique?
A lot.
A couple is only the start. You can go as many as you'd like.
Fantastique would definitely be people who take time to appreciate waiters, cleaners, the service people who make our lives or make our holidays in St. Moritz or in Miami, wherever, as enjoyable as they do. I find that's something that's just decency.
I agree.
I think the La Poubelle is definitely, I see more and more, go back to social media, of these fakers showing us their handbags and their fake fur coats. And that to me is something that's definitely à la poubelle. You know, let's get some substance. And if you've something to say, have some substance in it, you know.
I think it's getting better.
Hopefully.
I think so.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, Fantastique, what I'd like to see more of is some blue skies up here over the next 2 weeks, because I have a lot of pictures to shoot.
I mean, history is by your side. 300 days of blue skies.
Yeah. We have to coordinate that with the shoot days and stuff. And I will, Fantastique definitely would be the two ladies on the plane, on the wing of the plane, being served their lunch as the pilots are taking their skis off the F-40. But I think in general, my Fantastique is when I meet people and see people who have respect. And I say respect as in who have time and courtesy for people. And that's something that really stimulates me when I get great joy when I see people who are decent. Yeah. And I enjoy to see more. And in a town like this, there's quite a lot of that. It's something very old school about up here, that there's still values, and I think the locals and the Swiss people in general, they're very friendly people, you know, and that makes me happy.
I agree with that. Fully aligned.
Yeah, I need more Poubelle.
No, I think you're good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, the Fantastiques are even better.
Yeah.
More pros than cons.
Yeah. I probably have a lot of feedback from the handbag lady.
No, it's fine. I think they know.
Yeah, come on. I love them.
They know.
But make it more interesting.
Yeah. You know,
give me more than a handbag.
Yeah.
You know? Come on. There's more. Push yourselves creatively.
Yeah.
And just dig a little deeper. Then I see, because there's some brilliant influencers that I've seen, and they make it interesting. But dig deeper. So it's more of, as opposed to a criticism, it's like an advice, an artistic advice, if I may, with all due respect.
Substance over status.
again, Ireland,
they do it right.
they created it.
Yeah.
You know,
I
they've lived off it.
They have. I'd love to see more of that online as well. But
Yeah.
I think the tide's heading in the right direction.
Hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for
Oh,
taking the
thank
time
you.
today.
It was a pleasure.
This is great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Gstaad Guy podcast. If you're keen to learn more, please follow along by engaging with our social channels on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Merci beaucoup, à la prochaine, and a big hug from the Gstaad Guy.